Children, you may go to the playground. Children between the ages of 3 years and 5th grade, this is your special time. And as I do so, I want to give a special note of appreciation to our Maryville University wrestling team. You might have... What was that I heard? It must have been the choir that just happened to have sung the national anthem at the National Wrestling Tournament hosted by Maryville yesterday, right? So, friends, you're doing it all wrong. The choir did have it right. That is the secret handshake of the Maryville. So, out of appreciation for their presence, they're inviting the choir to participate in their service as greeters and ushers today. Let's really celebrate. I hope you feel at home. Well done. Well done. Today we are continuing the 4th of 5 sermons on you, the specialist that you are as we start 2019. Remember, in the entire history of the universe, 14, 15 billion years ago, no one has been just like you. You are the special part. Isn't it? I saw something on Facebook. Someone shared it the other day about this quote that when God made mountains and oceans and the sky, he thought the best thing to do was to make you too. I like that. I like that. So we've been celebrating that. And today we're going to celebrate your special hidden power. And to get into that, we're going to hear one of Jesus's familiar parables. The choir sort of alluded to it about keeping your lamps burning. Well, we're going to hear Jesus's parable about the wedding celebration. Back then it was about a week-long thing. And the bridegroom coming to pick up the bridesmaids to go to a big party. In honor of the gospel, as you are able, would you please stand?
At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 young bridesmaids who took their lamps and went out to meet the groom. Now 5 of them were wise, and the other 5 were foolish. The foolish ones took their lamps, but didn't bring oil for them. But the wise ones took their lamps and also brought containers of oil. When the groom was late in coming, they all became drowsy and went to sleep. But at midnight, there was a cry, "Look, the groom, come out and meet him." Then all those bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. But the foolish bridesmaids said to the wise ones, "Give us some of your oil, because our lamps have gone out." But the wise bridesmaids replied, "No, because if we share with you, there won't be enough for our lamps and yours. We have a better idea. You go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they were gone to buy oil, the groom came. Those who were ready went with him into the wedding. Then the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids came and said, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he replied, "I tell you the truth, I don't know you. Therefore, keep alert, because you don't know the day or the hour." The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. You may be seated. So the moral of this story is, be ready, be prepared. Live as if Jesus, the bridegroom, could make his appearance at any time. Make sure your lifestyle, your values, everything are in line with what Christ asked of you, as if you were preparing for him to make an entrance into your life. Now that's the traditional understanding of it. Keep your lamps burning. Have enough oil. Be prepared. But this is a parable. It's a teaching story of Jesus. So that in itself invites us to look at different layers of meaning, to ask questions of this story, sort of play with it, if you will. And I want to share with you what I ran across about this story. It was a comment from one commentator who asked, how did the women make their decisions about the oil? I don't think just 5 automatically said, let's just play cards and have fun and not get any oil, while the other 5 were responsible naturally and prepared. This person said, no, I don't think that happened that way. So you had 10 people, 10 women, and you had 2 very influential ones in there. People, two people that the others liked, were friends with, had a good track record, whatever. And one said, hey, we don't know when the bridegroom's going to come. Odds are it'll be during the day anytime. We don't have to get concerned about that. Let's just live for the day, and if it comes later on at night, well, we'll cross that bridge then, okay? And 4 people who really liked this person said, sure, why not? The other one, of course, said the opposite. Could come anytime. We really want to go to that party. Let's cover all bets here. So let's go. Let's spend the time and the resources now to get enough oil that we won't be left out in the dark. And the other said, hey, we like you, makes sense. And so that's where how the other 4 got that idea. Those 2 women exerted what you could call hidden power. They had connection. And by their past track record, by the fact that the other women liked them respectively, that's how they made the decision. 5 foolish, 5 wise. And let's translate that to you. You are here and you are who you are to a degree because people have influenced you and have contributed to you with your outlook, with your lifestyle, fill in the blank. They have, haven't they? Think of the people in your life who have shaped you, who have just simply exerted natural influence upon making you who you are. For me, as I was recalling this, I had 2 people that came to my mind from my past, excluding family, because family always has a major influence. But I had Dr. Powell, who was the preacher at the First Methodist Church in Poplar Bluff, corner of 5th and Main. As I was growing up, under his ministry, I committed my life to Christ and decided to enter the ministry. He is to blame. No, he just shaped me and was, without him, I'm not here. And then there was Mr. Ivester, my high school chemistry and physics teacher, who happened to have been an atheist, but who also had this amazing love for nature and science, and he really impressed me. And isn't it interesting that I have this natural affinity for the connection between faith, Dr. Powell, and science, Mr. Ivester? They shaped me. And have you ever noticed that you can never call anybody when you were young anything you cannot call them by their first name as you grow older? It's always Doctor or Mister. Have you ever noticed that? It's sort of a reflection of the respect that they deserve. So, who are your Dr. Powells and Mr. Ivesters? Who are your teachers, your pastors, your classmates, your bosses, your employees, your scoutmasters, A, B, C, D, E, go on down. Who have been this positive influence in your life? And, unfortunately, who've been the foolish, card-playing bridesmaids in your life? And you've probably had a few of them. I've had a few because you like them, you trust them, they lead you down this path until you say, wait a second. And you might have made some mistakes along the way. But regardless, we are who we are because people have shaped us. What have they taught us about life? What have they taught us about ourselves? What have they taught us about God? Fill in the blank. Now, having said all of this up, that we are shaped by people with hidden powers, let's take that now a step farther. I invite you to imagine the people whom you have had an influence over, who, not necessarily intentionally, but just by who you are, have you helped be a wise bridesmaid. I would invite you to look at the different roles in your life that you have played and are playing. In those roles, how do you think you have conducted yourself, have spoken, given a gift of your time or whatever, that's really impacted and influenced someone? I think you would really be surprised if you took that type of inventory. Here's an example. I think that sometimes people who are stay-at-home moms or dads don't really realize the power and the impact that they have. Because I think it's natural for them to say, I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, I have a PhD, and I'm changing diapers. That's the value of tuition. You would think naturally sometimes, what difference am I making in the world? The dent in the universe like Steve Jobs wanted. But even look at that, especially look at what you do every day, because no one in the universe knows your child like you do. No one in the universe knows how to comfort your child or to direct your child like you do. And all those hours you spend taking them to rehearsals or to lessons or to this or that, you are influencing them in ways that you have no concept of now. You are influencing their classmates because your children are learning how to live and to share your values, even with their classmates. And for generations to come, through grandchildren, etc., you are making an influence each minute of every day. Stay-at-home moms and dads, look at the other arenas of your life. You would be blown away. The hidden power that you have for good to make a difference. And that is one of the reasons I am so glad Dr. Powell came into my life, influenced me for the ministry, because being in church gives me an overwhelming privilege of seeing the power of people like you doing good, being an influence that this world needs to have. Look at the avenues, how you can make life special, brighter, helpful, more helpful, stronger for people, even within this place, and influencing generations to come. I loved being here at the Youth Bistro Friday night for their fundraiser across the way in the fellowship hall, and last night. And all of you adults and parents who helped set that up and do all the decorating and go on that cherry picker that put all those things up in the fellowship hall. Do you know the influence you made on those youth when they saw you doing that and you didn't need to be doing that? Those youth are going to remember what you've done for the rest of their lives. And youth who were there, you know the influence that you have on the people that you served? They're saying, yeah, there is hope for the world. Look at these young people. And how you are an influence on the younger youth, and how you youth are an influence on the children that you see around, sometimes volunteering to help in Sunday school and in choirs. And you who teach children, do you know the influence that you have? And you who lead small groups or go on different mission projects or sell bridge bread or sing in the choir or do this or do that. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. To see the opportunities you have to influence people. It really was brought home to me once, this not being aware of what you do, but really can make a life-changing difference. Brought home to me once several years ago when I was in my former church, and it was right before the tsunami called Christmas in that time of year. Saturday morning, we were getting ready to decorate the church when this man came in, along with his family, and I looked at him, and he looked like an older version of one of the kids I had in my youth group when I was just starting out as a youth pastor. And it turned out that he was that youth, just looking a bit older. He was back to visit his folks, but he made a point to stop by my church. And he said, after some small talk, he said, "I'm here to say thank you for saving my life." And that is a conversation stopper right there. I said, "What in the world are you talking about?" And he replied, "One afternoon, I was driving around and I had determined I was going to kill myself. I was angry. I was depressed. I said, this is going to make a statement. I was ready to do that, but I thought one last chance I would simply stop by the church and see if you were there. You were there. You invited me into the office. I talked with you. You did not judge me. You listened to me, and that turned the corner for me. So thank you." He told me all that, and I hadn't a clue what he was talking about. I don't remember that conversation. Not at all. And yet he did, and that influence changed his perspective, his life. How many times do you think you do that? You are all ministers. You don't have to wear this thing to be a minister. You all are. How are you changing people's lives? Let's make it a little more direct. What oil are you putting in your lamp? If you go home and read Matthew 5, 6, and 7, the cornerstone of what it means to be a Christian, according to Jesus, you will see the different types of oil that he has available for us to put in our lamps. The oil of compassion, feeling what another person is feeling, empathizing. The oil of reconciliation, to not hold grudges and to be happy, name-calling. The oil of forgiving, letting the other person make mistakes and saying it's okay. The oil that you can put in of wisdom, of being able to know when to say no and when to set boundaries. And that's important nowadays. The oil of supporting someone. When you know that the ground is shaken underneath them, you go and help steady that ground. The oil of being able to give up, even your time, you're on your day off, on behalf of someone else. The oil of simply being patient, taking deep breaths, and letting Christ speak through you. And that's just a few of the bottles of oil that you'll find in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. But you know what you'll also find in the Sermon on the Mount? When Jesus says, "You are the light of the world." Jesus says in John's Gospel, "I am the way, the truth, and I am the light of the world." He is. But we are reflections when we live as he lives. And those samples of oil, those bottles of oil, that's how he lived, plus many, 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 many more. So I invite you, friends, to take an inventory of the oil that you can pour into your lamp, because the world really, really, really needs to see your light. Now, I want to conclude this sermon with a real life example of someone who had a wealth of oil that he shared, and I bet you might not even know that he had done it. Who is this man? Jimmy Stewart. Now, I'm not nearly old enough to know who he is. So I had to do a lot of research to find him. I had to talk to some people in the choir. Well, it was fun being here. But I ran across a story about him that was just fascinating, and I bet you don't know the backstory about Jimmy Stewart. Now, he, a great movie star of the last century, for those who don't know him, had been a famous star. He already gained fame when World War II broke out. As a matter of fact, he was a best actor, got that Academy Award for the Philadelphia Story in 1939. When the war broke out, he was almost 33 and too old to enlist, but he wanted to. He wanted to serve his country, so he badgered the recruiter, "I want to serve." A famous movie star, "I want to serve." And then he was rejected not for his age, but he was too skinny for his height. That could have been enough. No, he gets a personal trainer. He bulks up. He makes weight. He enlists and is accepted. He signs up. And the military says, great, we have a movie star. We're going to send him all over the country selling war bonds. He said, I did not enlist for that. I enlisted to serve my country and to be on the front lines. He knew how to fly. I mean, he had been a movie star. He took lessons. I want to serve in the Army Air Corps. And for 4 years, Jimmy Stewart, Academy Award-winning actor, flew B-24 Liberators in missions in Europe. He rose from the rank of private to, at the end of 4 years, colonel. And after the war, he continued his service to his country through serving in what then became the Air Force Reserve, reaching the status of Brigadier General. Jimmy Stewart. But there's more to the story. Because after serving in the war and earning 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses in the process, he was a bit of a broken man. Hollywood just didn't seem quite the same. Maybe it was a lot shallower. And he was still fighting the demons of the war. We would call it post-traumatic stress syndrome. He didn't know what he was going to do with life. He wasn't fitting in back into civilian life until a man named Frank Capra, a director, shot a movie idea past him. He said, I want you to think about playing a character called George Bailey, who is a depressed man, is about to kill himself on Christmas Eve. Jimmy liked that idea because that was what he was feeling himself. And so, of course, he took the role in That's a Wonderful Life, and that was therapy for him. That got him back into living again and fitting in. And he won we didn't win the award, but he was nominated for Best Actor for that movie. Jimmy Stewart was back, but with 2 conditions. And for the rest of his career, he had these 2 conditions that he put forth. Number 1 was that he would never star in a movie that glorified war, because he knew war was anything but something to glorify. And number 2, he would never allow any movie studio to capitalize upon his war service. They were never to do that, because he said, I saw people give the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of their country, and we're not going to have any group profit off of that, even the movie industry. He kept his values. Jimmy Stewart knew the oil that he was putting in his lamp to be an example to other people. The oil of courage, of sacrifice, of commitment to a higher cause. So I would ask you to consider what you have to put in the lamp so that all might see your light. I'm going to end my sermon by paraphrasing a TV commercial. I ask you, what's in your lamp?